Hey guys, we're here. Today we are playing a match against Trolls. I finally managed to man up and find a match on the LOS Brawlmachine looking for looking for Dave chat. So I am matched up with Dave, also known as Dappington on his Discord name. So yeah, this is going to be a match which I have practically zero experience in. There's only two people I know of in the Philippines that run trolls, and they do not run Gunnbjorn2. And they might have after 3 years of me not playing. So yeah, let's move on to the lists. So for my list, I am running Issyria, Sibyl of Dawn. With her battle group, we have Hemera and Phoenix. On her army, we have Scythe and a full unit of Mage Hunter Strike Force with the Strike Force Commander and Soulless Escort weapon attachment. So this is one of my favorite lists. In my 75 point version, Issyria is the caster and the build that has given me most of my victories. I think I won a third place steamroller a couple of years back with her, and then most of my good placings are top four in a best of eight. No, in an 8-man or 10-man pod. Yes, we only have that much. There's very few people who play Warmachine in the Philippines. So yeah, my logic here was, try and use something I'm comfortable with and then tone it down. The newest thing I added here is Scythe, so I don't know how to use her yet. You'll see how stupid I am with her as you watch the game. So for Dave's list, he is running Brigadier General Gunnbjorn, also known as Gunnbjorn2. His battle group is composed of Dozer and Smig and a Troll Impaler. His army is composed of General Thunderstone Brug, Leadfoot and Treads, a Thumper crew, a Trollkin Barrage team, Pharaoh Razorback crew, and a Trollkin Gunnery Sergeant. For the table, we are running the Orbit scenario from the Brawlmachine version 1 PDF. So the table consists of two flags on both sides of the table, a rectangular zone on the left side, and a circle zone on the right. The table is composed of 3 trenches on the north part of the northern half, a forest. On the middle, we have a cloud and a line of sight blocking terrain, probably a tower. On the left side, on top of the rectangular zone. On the circular zone, we have a forest, 2 small clouds, a wall. On the southern half of the board, we have 2 more trenches, a forest, a wall, and a hill. So that's it for the table. We're moving on to the lists. I'm doing this in one take. So for the deployment, Dave has opted to go first, giving me the choice to pick top or bottom. I choose the top. I forgot to mention the 2 trenches on the southern half of the board comes from Dave's Team Force benefit. I did not know that initially. It was good for me to pick the side with the trench because he would have had 5 trenches worth of cover. So me taking the top part of the board, I think was more to my benefit than to his. Because even if there are 2 forests on his side, I have Sight and I have the Mage Hunter Strike Force with their UA that lets me practically see through forests. So yeah, let's go back to Dave. He deploys first. He runs a line with Gunnbjorn at the center of the board. Beside him, Leadfoot and Treads on his right. And then on his left, we have what do you call that guy? His big war beast, the Dozer and Smig, and the Troll Impaler. That's it. Next to the Orbeez are the Thumper group, and then the Trollkin Gunnery Sergeant. On the right-hand side of the flank, we have the Trollkin Barrage team, and with his advanced deploy, he puts the Pharaoh Razorback crew 10 inches up the board near that trench. For my deployment, I deploy both of my arc nodes in front of me at the 10-inch mark. Behind them is Issyria, and then Scythe making up the last regular deployment. For my advanced deploy, I put the Mage Hunter Strike Force at the 13-inch mark, deployed neatly right behind the forest. We start off turn 1 with Dave. He gets his full complement of Fury, and then he activates Dozern's Mig and runs him up the board right behind the flag and behind the forest. He has a special ability that lets his Gunnbjorn2 follow up 2 inches. And that ends his first activation. Next up, Dave activates the Pharaoh Razorback crew and moves them up the board into the trench. Dave's next activation begins with Gunnbjorn2, and he casts Foxhole right behind the trench and Explosivo on Leadfoot and Friends, and he moves up Gunnbjorn into the Foxhole. Dave's next set of activations are his Warbies. He activates Dozern's Mig first and runs him up into the trench, and then the Impaler runs up the board on the left-hand side, hides behind the wall, well, beside the wall. He then activates Brug and runs him up right behind the Foxhole. He then activates the Thumper crew and runs him board. Sadly, he doesn't have enough movement to fit them all into the Foxhole. Dave's last activation is the Trollkin Barrage team, and he tries to fit them all in the trench. But I think there's a little bit of tight squeeze there. My turn begins, and it's also relatively quick. Issyria gets her full complement of focus. Both Warjacks power up, and I begin the turn with my, Hemera, and I run her up the board 12 inches in front, right behind the line of sight blocking terrain. And at this point, I'm looking at the recording, and I realize I'm playing very aggressively with my Warjacks here, and I know this bites me in the butt. But when I was running this, I thought the defense and the arm bonus from my spells would be enough to save them. But as it turns out, that's not going to be the case. Keep on watching. After Hemera, I then activate the Mage Hunter Strike Force, and I run them up the board to the right side of the right-hand flank. So here I also realize another mistake. I forget that the UA becomes the unit leader, and I was measuring command from the unit leader model, not the UA. So thankfully, we realized this on Dave's turn, and Dave kindly lets me adjust the how the Mage Hunters are positioned. So either way, my logic here was to, I have more dudes on the circle zone. I have a better chance of controlling it if I eliminate the Barrage team and the Pharaoh crew when they get into range on my turn 2. So that's it for the Strike Force activation. I then activate Scythe, and this is where you see that I am not. I don't know how to play her. I run her up the forest, and then Dave actually kindly tells me that her ability works better if she is behind the forest, not in front of it. So at this point, I just say, no, I've already committed the action. Thanks for the advice. I'll keep that in mind. Although at this stage, it's actually not relevant yet because nothing is in range. Although Dave has informed me, my logic. I told him my logic here was to give her the defense bonus, the 2+2 defense bonus. But then Dave tells me it's better not to be seen rather than to get the defense bonus, which he's completely right. So either way, I commit. Take the hits, take your mistakes, learn from it. I then activate the Phoenix and run him up the board 12 inches right next to Scythe. Issyria then activates. I move her up 6 inches right behind the flag and a little bit close to the danger zone with the kill box. And then cast Admonition on herself, and then Inviolable Resolve on the Hemera. And then this is where the main reason I was overconfident. I am in range with Chimera to Arc Node Blinding Light onto Dozer and Smig. I was thinking that was the only threat that could damage my Jax, as he's running a very range-heavy army. Again, this is biting me in the butt, because I don't know his army. I didn't know how strong his shooting was. I was hoping that I would be able to deal enough damage to his big guns that my Mage Hunter Strike Force could kill his infantry. But yeah, like I said, stupidity rules. Dave's turn 2 begins, and he lets go of Foxhole. Gunnbjorn gets his full complement of Fury from his War Beast, and then he activates Dozer and Smig, and begins to advance them, run them behind the Watchtower thing. I've heard from Dave that the Blinding Light was actually a good distraction, but you'll see in the long run that doesn't really matter for my army. His Impaler then activates, and he begins by casting Snipe on himself with his Animus. He moves up right beside Dozer and Smig and makes a series of attacks against my Phoenix. It does 6 points of damage, and I don't think a lot else mattered for that activation. Next up, the Trollkin Gunnery Sergeant activates, and he uses Ancillary Attack on the Thumper, shooting my Chimera. It doesn't deal damage, but the knockdown was very crucial for Dave. Next up, Dave activates Gunnbjorn2, and this is when I realize how powerful he is. So first off, he starts his activation by moving next to the flag to claim it. He is also in the trench, granting him the +4 bonus. He then, if I'm not mistaken, the order of his activations goes with he casts Expose first, making sure that Chimera is hit by Expose, so that I use the +2 arm from Invaluable Resolve. And then he activates Gunnbjorn's special ability, Bring It Down, and targeting the Thumper. So with a boosted attack roll, he manages to get rid of Chimera's shields and spilling over a little bit more damage, I think. And then what's the next thing? He declares another spell. It's named Relentless Barrage, targeting the Thumper again, dealing more damage. And I think the rest of his attacks, he uses Gunnbjorn's gun and makes an attack with the armor-piercing special ability and deals enough to essentially cripple Chimera. If I'm not mistaken, at the end of this activation, Chimera is down to 10 hitboxes. Dave then activates Leadfoot and Threads, and the first thing he asks me, I think, is do I have any movement tricks that would enable me to charge with the Phoenix? With me being out of practice, I forget about Crusader's Call that grants +2-inch movement on the charge. So I tell Dave that I do not. So he places Leadfoot right beside Gunnbjorn near the flag, and we both agree that he is able to see Chimera. Leadfoot is strong enough to actually kill Chimera, and then he ends his activation not using the reposition. Next up, the Thumper crew activates. They move into the trench and then declares an attack against the Phoenix. They deal, I think, 4 points of damage, totaling 10 because of the Impaler's previous shot, knocking off my shields. And then the knockdown effect is actually what hurts me more. Dave then activates the Trollkin Gunnery Battery crew. God, I don't know their names. Trollkin Barrage team, that's the word, the name. So he moves them up to contest the circle zone, and then declares a series of attacks against my Mage Hunter Strike Force. He kills 3 guys from the blast damage, and then this is when I realized that I made a mistake. As I mentioned earlier, I was measuring command from the unit leader, not the unit attachment. When we catch that, Dave is kind enough to let me move the models outside of command to within command. Because if I remember that, I would have still done. I would have moved the same, except I wouldn't have pushed as far. So, props to Dave. He's a good guy. He's very sportsman. He's actually teaching me a lot of things as we play the game. Lastly, Dave activates Brug and then just moves him behind the Hordes. So my turn 2 starts, and I realize that it's bad. Losing Hemera was bad. I don't have enough strong guys to actually kill his war beasts and his, reach his dudes. So I'm standing here, I'm thinking about what I'm gonna do, and then this is even before I allocate focus. The Phoenix being knocked down also it puts a hamper on my plans, especially since, he was probably the only guy that could kill or match his war beasts. But at this point, I'm thinking I'm making proxy moves. I try to see how I can reach anything with the Phoenix, but I eventually, Dave eventually suggests that the Phoenix might be able to shoot his Trollbloods barrage team if it stands up, and then I then allocate 3 focus on the Phoenix, 1 to shake it off. I do it late on this game, but I tell Dave that I shake it off. So yeah, I move Issyria up the flag. I pop feet. I cast. I don't cast. What do you call that? Blinding light this turn. I don't think it matters. So what I realize is that Issyria has Crusader's Call, and from this point with Reach 2, I would be able to charge Gunnbjorn. But then I realized Dave asked me earlier if I had any movement tricks, and I told him no. So to return the favor with what he did for the Mage Hunter Strike Force, I tell him, yo, Dave, I realize I have Crusader's Call, which adds 2 inches to any model that starts a charge in Issyria's control range. And then that would mean that I would be able to hit Gunnbjorn. So Dave, then, if I'm not mistaken, it's on this activation, moves the Leadfoot and Treads to block the path. Yep. So with that, I just end Issyria's activate. I just start Issyria's final action with ancillary attack. I decide to shoot the Trollbloods barrage team rather than the Impaler because I think that would matter more, because if I kill the barrage team on this activation, my Mage Hunter Strike Force would be free to shoot anything else. But then it misses, so it doesn't matter, and I eat up a lot of time. I think that takes the entire move 10 minutes to finish. Next up, I activate Sight, and I decide to move her out of the woods and then try and shoot the Trollbloods barrage team. With her 4 shots, I would have been able to kill her. Had I realized that Shadows of the Retribution gives me, lets me do grievous wounds. I forgot the exact term. Either way, it lets me ignore tough for my targets. But since I forgot about that, I'm just realizing this now. So if Dave is watching, I just realized this now. That, the Thumper crew would have been dead if not for the tough rolls. So another mistake here is that I keep forgetting that to get the benefits of Tree Walker, I needed to be fully within the woods. I have 7-inch movement, and I was planning to just deny the shooting from Leadfoot and Treads and engage him. But then I put Sight halfway in the forest rather than fully within. And I have enough movement to go fully within without taking a free strike from Leadfoot and Treads. I don't even need to engage Treads, but I just do so that to reduce the amount of shooting that Dave has. I just really want to deny the flag. So here's another stupid move I realized. After using 10 minutes to think about what I was gonna do with the Phoenix and loading up 2 focus on him, I just move him back to the left-hand rectangular zone and deny the objective. Lastly, I activate the Mage Hunter Strike Force, and then with me forgetting about optional takedown from the team, I played them conservatively rather than, moving them up, maximizing the 12-inch reach, the 12-inch threat, so I could have shot everything else. So either way, I move them up, I pop the mini feet on the UA, and shoot the Trollkin Barrage team. And then, like I said, I realized with optional takedown, I wouldn't have needed to shoot with as many guys as I did, because there were a lot of times that the tough rolls saved Dave. Like I said, if I had played them a little bit more aggressively, put them in more areas where I can reach, I could have probably shot the Pharaoh crew and the last thumper as well. But then, like I said, playing stupid, not reading your rules, out of practice, I'm making a lot of mistakes, and Dave is actually punishing and will punish me for it on the next turn. So we end turn 2. We keep on forgetting. I keep on forgetting to adjust the turn markers and the CP. So either way, I have 2 objectives to flag in the circle zone. We end this activation with me for 2 points and Dave with 0. Begins, and I don't think he gets his full complement of focus because the Dozer and Smig only ran, and the Impaler used his Animus and ran, so that's a total of 3. And Dave cast a lot of spells the previous turn. So if I'm not mistaken, he gets 5 and he cuts for 1 to get his full complement of focus. So after that, he activates Leadfoot and Treads and completely smashes Sight. With his reposition, he moves back to get the full benefit of the focus and stay out of line of sight from the rest of my guys unless I move into the forest. Dave then spends the rest of his turn 3, well, not the rest, most of his turn 3 trying to figure out how to get that assassination right. But me putting Issyria in the trench is actually one of the best things that I've been done this entire game. Like, I knew that the trenches would matter, but I didn't know they would matter this much. So yeah, Dave was trying to find ways to get to that assassination without the trench mattering. So if I'm not mistaken, he measures all the ranges, he tries to find a clear shot, but all of the shots will still get the trench benefit. Doesn't have anything to get rid of it. So he starts with the thumper, fires his shot, and misses. And then he moves on. He then activates Gunnbjorn, if I'm not mistaken, and tries to use his Bring It Down on the thumper, targeting Issyria again, and misses because of the trench. And then he uses Relentless Barrage on Dozer and Smig and tries to catch my Mage Hunter Strike Force, but unfortunately his drift, I think he pops feet this turn as well. So he was trying to kill all of my dudes with the blast damage, but unfortunately his drift wasn't in his favor and misses. So that ends the Gunnbjorn activation. Next up, he activates the Pharaoh crew and then moves them up the board, tries to shoot Issyria but misses, and then he repositions into the cloud to deny me the objective. Dozer and Smig then activates, he moves up, shoots the Phoenix, deals a lot of damage, but leaves the Phoenix at 5 hit points. Next up is the Trollkin Gunnery Sergeant. He moves up into the trench right beside the Thumper crew and does an ancillary attack targeting Issyria, but misses again. Lastly, Dave activates the Impaler and runs him up the board in front of Issyria, denying me the objective. So we end Dave's turn 3 with 2 points for me and 1 point for him for controlling the flag, and he is contesting both zones. And we start my turn, and just me thinking about I have 1 minute and 16 seconds. I try to do something, but I don't have enough time to do it, and I die by clock. Post game, yep. So we're here. I lost by clock this time, and most of it is because of overthinking, analysis paralysis, and a lot of that is because I don't know my opponent's what they call that army. I took a lot of time figuring out what to do against him, and it bit me in the ass. It's also, a lot of that thinking time actually didn't matter because I didn't even commit. So I think for the future games, I'm going to try and just think relatively quicker. Pretty sure I wouldn't be able to do it, but yeah. And then try and actually research the armies. I'm not in the phase. I'm trying to win a lot, but doing the battle reports actually helps study your opponent. So I think doing this is a win-win for me. The other side is, as usual, read your cards. I forgot. I didn't understand the site's tree walker ability. The team benefits, I forgot about being able to ignore tough. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed the match. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm sorry if you're hearing some pops from my mic. I'm still using my old one. I found a mic that I'd like to buy, but I don't know if I'd be able to buy it if I have the budget for it. If you have anything else, please write it down in the comments. If you want to have a match with me, hit me up. I'll send you my Discord name, and we can schedule a game. Thanks, and bye.